Hey guys, so let's go with our recap of round 3, the Lichess4545 League. Interestingly, I'm missing one game. I'm missing Damian's game, so that's unfortunate. Give me a second, and we're gonna put it there as well. As you can see, I'm very prepared. It was round 3, and we're this team. So this game is missing my study. Although that's weird. Let me check that I don't have it anywhere. No, I don't. Okay. So add to study here, and let's put it on the right place. And I'm gonna need a computer analysis for you guys to share. And hopefully this will make it also. Damian was black, so let's put it from the black's perspective. Okay, and now let me check that. Yeah, you can see it. Perfect. Okay, so sorry about that. I'll try to be faster. Let's see if I can do the whole recap under 2 hours this time. So I'll go through the games fast. I'll try to remember the main important points, and I'll try to do as simple comments as I can. Anyway, so Damian was facing mmorrisohio. Let's call him that. And we have this. I actually predicted it would be an exchange French defense, given the repertoire of both players, and it did happen. He takes d5, he takes d5. You know, exchange French defense is one of the most boring openings. Now, at least it has that that fame of being very boring, very symmetrical. Pieces get traded, draw. But it already got exciting with this weird move knight c6. It's not very normal. But okay, they develop pieces. White tried to exploit that ping immediately. And this happened where White got the bishop pair. King d8, interesting. I mean, there was nothing wrong with bishop e7, I guess. I suppose Damian wanted to castle short, and he also wanted to take on c6 with the queen. That's my only explanation for king to d8. And yeah, bishop g5, h6, which according to the engine is a blunder. The engine suggests queen f5. Well, the thing here is bishop g5 is spinning the knight, intending, to take this pawn, and h6 does nothing to prevent that. It allows bishop takes and bishop takes. Let's see what happened. I feel that I feel that I didn't see this game, or I don't remember anything. Anyway, knight c3, interesting. There were a number of moves. This position is horrible for black already. Queen f3, attacking many weaknesses. Knight c3 as was played in the game. The trick with bishop takes d5 trick is that bishop takes h2 regains the pawn, but still bad for black. You know, by not castling and allowing this structure, yeah, black is in a lot of trouble. A pawn down as well. Yeah. Another pawn gone. Yeah, I didn't see this game, but it looks all Very, very bad. H5. Oh yeah, I remember this moment. Yeah, I actually entered at this point. So yeah, I remember I said in the chat knight g4 was creative with the idea of bishop e6 if queen takes g4, bishop e6. But this would have been a lot of pieces, a lot of material for the queen actually. That would have been bad. So it's interesting that knight g4 was played. Anyway, much simpler was bishop takes and queen f3, and yeah, this is much simpler, right? But everything wins at this point. Yeah. Terrible. I mean, there's certain chances now. I wouldn't mind playing this against a 1300 as black. I see some chances to, you know, survive. It's a rook and pawn endgame. It will require some technique, but it's 2 pawns. Yeah, I guess that's fine. It just loses the other pawn, so yeah, just keep the rook here. So yeah, another pawn lost, and yeah, going back there, that's too much. Too much already. Yeah, this game doesn't have a lot of... actually, this is interesting. Wow, what is white doing? Okay, this is not so clear now. Huh. Yeah, I guess that's fine. Rook e8. Check. Not sure about the check. Maybe getting the king out. Yeah, that was funny. And white is winning. Instead of checking again, why not this, you know? Anyway. Yeah, actually this at least stops the promotion. And if you go king g2, king f2 we can check again, I guess. Yeah, maybe king f2 is best. King g2 I was thinking this, but it's not in time. We need to do it one move earlier. Anyway, this point is very much gone. So yeah, I'd say Damian really misplayed in the opening. It was already, I mean, knight c6 is but then yeah, a6 is too much. Well, you know, with the king exposed and the e file open, I would just develop castle. And then after check, I would still go bishop e7 to castle. Now king d8 is already a concession, and after b5, bishop there, bishop d6, and bishop g5, h6 is another concession. So it's too much, too many concessions in the opening. Yeah. And that's all I have to say, I think, about this game. This game doesn't have a lot of history because I think white played very well for the rest of the game. So let's go watch Kapu's game. Kapu was white against Bernie 28. And we have the Scandinavian defense. I am sort of an expert in the Scandinavian. It's not the best defense. If you want to grow as a player, you really need to explore other openings, because it's always the same structure, and you know, black always has this problem with space. But I guess it's not too much of a concession, especially given the level of the player. So it's playable. Yeah, queen takes d5, knight c3, and the queen d8 line, which to me seems like the most solid one. There's also queen a5 and queen d6. So knight f3, knight f6, d4, and bishop g4. You know, the main setup for black has like 2 different setups. well, there are many really, but you know, c6 is the most popular. There are some setups with g6, which also happen with c6 probably. And then if you want to keep this pawn here, you may play with knight c6, h6, and long castle. But that doesn't make a lot of sense in the queen d8 line because, you know, you put the queen on the 8, so it's going to take longer to castle. So bishop g4, okay, it's a move. I would assume, hey Mamlu, I would assume black wants to play e6, c6, and you know, the normal stuff, maybe even trade on f3. So bishop e2, somebody in the chat was suggesting bishop c4. Eval bar looks sad. Well, yeah, we lost this game. Yeah, someone was talking about this trick with bishop f7. Let's say if black plays c6, takes, check, and regain the piece, which is a nice trick. Also, I would say knight e5 immediately is even better. So you attack, instead of winning a pawn and exposing the king, which is great enough, but instead of that you can just win a full piece with knight e5. Well, not technically, because there's this move to prevent it, but it's just horrible, horrible, horrible for black. And yeah, anything, this is horrible. And if not that move, we're winning a piece. Or, of course, checkmating, which is nice. And bishop h5, queen takes h5, that's also funny. So yeah, bishop c4 is definitely one option against the queen d8 line, and it's natural. And probably black should have played e6 in that case. But okay, that didn't happen. Bishop e2, which is a very slow approach that sometimes I use actually in blitz against the Scandinavian, because, you know, just bring the pieces out, be safe. You have a space advantage that's pretty solid. So no need to go for concrete things. Now knight c6, as I said, it's a bit strange to me. It usually connects with the plans of a6 and long castle, but with the queen on d8 seems a bit strange. But okay, it's a move. And it may help prepare e5 at some point. That's one of the ideas of knight c6 in the Scandi. Bishop e7, h3, takes. That trade I don't like for black. I think it was much more clever. Okay, bishop g4, bishop e2 happened. So if here white plays h3, then you take, yeah. But after bishop e2, I'm not sure the bishop really wants to trade on f3, because white's bishop is really nice on this diagonal on f3. So yeah, maybe as black I would consider to just go to h5, g6. Sometimes you can just go to f5 also. Anyway, takes, and this looks good for white already. You know, not just the bishop pair, but this bishop is especially good, and it may actually help this d5 push at some point, which happened right now. Right now, white played d5. I'm not sure. I have mixed feelings about d5. According to the engine approves the move, but to my eyes, you know, I'm how to say, we're not engines. And I feel it really hard to properly evaluate a move that may just trade everything and get into a completely drawn position like d5. You know, if we trade this pawn for this pawn and everything gets symmetrical, and the central files get open, we trade queens, maybe rooks. You need very, very, very accurate calculation to decide whether that's actually an advantage or not for you. It smells good because, you know, b7 is hanging, but yeah, the engine approves. The engine says d5 is a great move. I would usually refrain from that when we already have some advantages, positional advantages that we can play for. We have the space, we have the bishop pair. I would just keep, you know, building up the position. But okay, engine approves, so I can't complain. but it gets messy, of course, especially after 95. I think 95 is a bad move, but I mean, I guess trading was natural, but 95, I'm not sure what black is going for. Some complications definitely, but this allows f takes e6, which Kapu found, so well done. And now black has problems there on e6. It will have problems forever. Worst pawn structure. This is the kind of scenario where I wouldn't mind going for an endgame and trading a lot of pieces. So yeah, I guess it worked out well, this d5 break, but I don't think black had to play 95. Anyway, now Kapu went for bishop takes b7, which again objectively may be the best move or not. I'm not sure what the engine says, but seems like a reasonable move, but it all gets messy because now rook b8, and yeah, things start to get a bit messy. Still seems pretty okay for white, I have to say. I really like this position. And now I think bishop a6 was, to my eyes, the most natural move, because all these squares in this diagonal are covered by knights, and you know, if we can bring the bishop somewhere safer and still keep the bishop pair, why not? Also, it controls important squares because knight c4 may be actually a threat, and yeah, you know, knight c4 tickling the bishop on e3, the pawns on b2. So I think bishop a6 is like the most natural move in this position. However, it did not happen. Kapu went for bishop d4. Again, making it messy. And I think this is a consistent problem I've seen in Kapu's games so far. And by so far, I mean up to round 3, because game of round 4 that was just played moments ago, that was completely different, and that was great, I think, from a quick look. But these first 3 rounds, I've seen this consistent tendency to complicate things when they're simple moves, and that goes together with the time management. You can tell. I mean, you can see the clocks here. He still has 27 minutes left, which is nice. The opponent has 50 minutes left. So obviously it's not Kapu's fault that his opponent is blitzing out the moves and playing fast. So one thing I liked about this game is that Kapu really spent the time to think his moves, not getting rushed by the opponent's speed. But yeah, sometimes you gotta keep it simple. And I would only consider bishop d4 if bishop a6 didn't work. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Kapu saw a problem of bishop a6 and that's why he went for bishop d4. But yeah, he has this tendency to complicate things until he loses control. Thinking 20 minutes in the opening is not a very good thing, though. Yeah, I mean, he's a slow player for sure, and especially when he faces neo openings, and I think that's good. I mean, you gotta pick your battles. He prefers to think in the opening. That's a good sign. Actually, there was, I think it was in round 2, where he lost a piece in the opening precisely because of not thinking enough. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to think in the opening, if it goes a bit with the style. Like today he did well, I think, in a completely new territory for him. He spent the time, he played good moves, and well, I'm glad to see that progress. But yeah, I wouldn't do it. But of course, I think it's very different being a 1500 player than being a 2000 player or a 2300 player. When you're experienced, of course, you've seen so many things that you play fast with a confidence in the opening that you can't when you're a 1500 player. So I understand. Anyway, bishop d4 happened here, which is a bit messy, and allows rook takes b7, bishop takes e5, rook takes b2, which I think is good for white, and it happened, but the continuation was, yeah. So the reason I thought this was good for white is because immediately after I thought of this position with the rook on b2, first thing that comes to mind, to my mind, is 95. Now that move didn't happen, and I think Kapu didn't consider it at all. But okay, if you don't see that move, that's fine. But you need to see your opponent's threats. And something that I see many times in the lower boards is people miss threats from the opponent, and they only focus on their own ideas. And here black has a threat to win a pawn, and I think Kapu saw that, because I think he said something in the chat, and still made a move that didn't prevent it, actually forced it. So yeah, that was not good. So this is where things started going wrong. So yeah, black is threatening to trade queens and win the c2 pawn. Just queen takes queen, rook takes c2. It's a more or less simple threat. So other than 95, I think 95 was like a very good move, because it attacks the rook and gets that bishop. So rook would move. Rook needs to be careful where it moves, because c7 is also hanging. Let's say rook b7, 97. This kind of position, bishop versus knight, this pawn e6, this is a very pleasant endgame for white, I would think. But okay, if you don't want to do that, at least you need to prevent the threat. Queen takes d1, rook takes c2 is a threat. So I think logical moves could have been queen e2, queen c1. We actually discussed the line with queen c1, bishop a3. What did we think about this? There was 94, rook b5. I think we were discussing something like this in the chat, which was funny. I mean, a funny line. There was bishop f6 also. Yeah. But yeah, queen e2 looked also very simple, or even queen takes d8. I understand he didn't want to lose the control of the open file, but the bishop is attacking c7, so maybe black actually needs to take with the bishop here instead of the rook. Chris Guide, hey, thanks for the raid. Welcome, raiders. We're going over the games of round 3 of the Lichess4545 League, which we lost. We lost round 3 again, but we were so close this time. Anyway, this was also an interesting moment, because Kapu thought for a long time, from 26 minutes to 14. I think of those 14 minutes, sorry, from 12 minutes, I'm sure next time will go great. Thank you. That's nice. Yeah, I mean, it's a Swiss tournament. We lost our first 3 rounds, so basically we're already getting paired with the worst teams. So I guess, yeah, we have more chances now to do better. We're getting, I think we're out of 42 teams, I think we're in place 40 or 41, and we're playing with another team in that zone. So yeah, I think it will go better now. But the same is true for our opponents. Yeah, but at least it'll be a closer fight, hopefully. It was already very close in round 3, so let's see. Anyway, yeah. Here, yeah, Kapu spent 12 minutes, but of those 12 minutes, he thought for like 9 or 10 minutes, and then said in the chat, I have to go to the toilet. But he didn't make a move, so he went and then came back and then made a move. And I was like, I mean, you're in time travel already, or the time travel is starting. If you thought for 9 minutes, just make the move you're thinking of, and then do your toilet break. It was a bit confusing to me. He said afterwards that he wanted to come back with a clear mind to see if he was able to force the definition of a toilet move. Well, yeah, it is a bad move, but yeah, I think it was a bit of bad time management. His time management, as I said, has been improving over the rounds, but still, this moment was a bit strange because he's clearly getting into time travel, and I mean, if you already spent 9 minutes thinking, just make the move you're thinking of. Doesn't matter if it's 94. At least play it immediately. Anyway, he played 94, which, yeah, it's a bad move tactically because it doesn't stop the threat. Queen takes d1, rook takes e2. It's actually forcing it because it's attacking the rook, so yeah. It's double check on the rook, yeah. So the rook has to move. Wrong. The rook doesn't have to move yet. I mean, queen takes d1 and then rook takes e2. And so it's wrong tactically, but it's also positionally wrong, 94, because after this happened, and now he took with the f rook, because otherwise a2 will be hanging after that, so okay. So after this happened, now the knight is not great on a4. So yeah, both tactically and positionally a bad move, a really bad move. So now white is pawn down. The pieces are not great, at least the knight is not great, and the rook on a1 tied to defending a2, not great, compared to this great rook on the 7th rank. And yeah, maybe still holdable, but it's already starting to look bad. And the main thing that's looking bad to me is the pressure on f2 and the chances that black has to you know, start building some attack there on f2. So if it was me here at this particular point, I would be very concerned with the move 94. And I would start thinking of, you know, solutions against it. Kapu played rook dc1, so his idea was to win the c7 pawn, which, okay, I guess it makes sense, but the problem is rook e2, which, by the way, kudos to Bernie, because he's playing very well this part of the game. And now the final blunder. Yeah, again, bishop's hanging. I know I repeat myself, but when they attack a piece of you, the first thing you should think of is to, you know, to save your piece. So, yeah. Here, to my eyes, the most logical, normal move to think of is bishop takes c7, which, you know, saves the piece and takes the pawn that we were after. And then, of course, you need to think what to do if 94 happens, because 94 will happen. And maybe f3. What else? If we don't go greedy, if we see a problem there, because to my eyes, it's not about being greedy or not, it's about whether it has a problem or not. If it had a problem, then I would consider moves like bishop g3, bishop d4, you know, get the bishop out of there and defend the problem on f2. But yeah, Kapu played rook takes c7, which to my eyes, well, of course it's a tactical blunder again, but to my eyes it's not a move that you should be considering, because we already did a lot of weird stuff. We have this bad rook on a1, this bad knight on a4, this undefended bishop on e5. It's not the time. It's not the time to keep everything hanging and disconnect our rooks and have all of our pieces hanging while we do nothing about the problem on f2. So it wouldn't even be a move that I would consider, even if it works, which doesn't. And it doesn't work because, well, Kapu's idea, of course, is if you take my bishop, I take yours. But intermediate moves. Black has a couple of intermediate moves to save this bishop. One would be bishop d8, the other would be the one played in the game, knight e5. And now, yeah, not only knight e5 defends the bishop and wins this bishop on e5, but also opens the attack on f2 and this is just game over. So yeah, we can quickly see the rest of the game, but there was an interesting moment here. Knight e3 check, funny, came back to g1, not to walk into the discover check, and now back to d5. This is a funny moment because Kapu played rook d1. He didn't spend much time, but if it was me, I would play king f1 immediately without even thinking. Came back to f1 and you know, black is winning, yes, but if black plays knight e3, it's an immediate draw. So, you know, just repeat the position. You're the defending side. You have to repeat. Always repeat. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, yeah, that was funny, but of course you're losing, and that's just nonsense. Rook takes d5. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm glad I didn't see how it finished. I'm seeing it now. Okay, let's move on. We have the game of reheated leftovers in board number something, board number 8. Let's see if I get to board number 5 in the first hour. Okay, so this is the game ebisdikian against reheated leftovers. And in this game we were very, 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 very lucky because as you can tell from the graph, we weren't doing great until the last move. We got a draw out of this game after being completely lost, and it's funny how it happened. So let's have a look at the game. d4, d5, knight f3, knight f6, and c3. So very humble opening from white side. I don't even know if this has a name. Yeah, I mean, if black plays with c5 and pawns get traded, I guess we can go back to exchange Slav. Who was highest rated player in my team? I am the highest rated. That's how bad we are. I'm the highest rated player in my team. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going from the lower boards to the top board. So I'll cover my game. The last game I'm gonna go over is mine. Yeah. Actually, I played a good game, so it's nice to show. But yeah, round 1, I went from board 1 to 10, and I spent so much time talking about my game that it took forever to do the whole recap. So I'm doing it the other way around, so that at least, you know, I'm more motivated to go fast over my game because I'm already tired. But also because I think these recaps are great for the lower boards. So having that at the beginning of the video, it'll be nice. Anyway, let's continue. So yeah, c3, very humble opening, like a reversed Slav or something. Bishop f5, queen b3. Okay, bishop f5 was you know, typical move that weakens b7, so queen b3, which justifies the previous move, c3, and puts pressure on b7. Okay, so b6. I guess b6 is perfectly normal. Queen c8 maybe instead. Okay, c4, e6. It all seems pretty standard. This is the first surprise, knight takes d5, because yeah, if it was me, I would be choosing between queen takes or knight takes, or pawn takes. I think pawn takes is a nice structure for black. Usually, we're gonna, you know, then our bishop can come back to defend these weaknesses if necessary. So our bishop will have a good way back if necessary. We're gonna get our other bishop out, castle, and then play for c5. Seems like a good structure to me. So the question is whether we want to trade queens first or not. But okay, knight takes d5. g3. And now white wants to do something on that diagonal, I suppose. And c5, rar. So one thing I'm seeing happening in the lower boards a lot is people going for action before their kings are even near to be castled. So, I mean, it's funny how you tell people, especially beginners, you tell them, just develop your pieces, bring your pieces out, castle. They seem like the most normal principles. And then, I don't know why, maybe they see games of Carlsen when he delays castling for 15 moves, or I don't know, for whatever reason, they keep doing things like this, like c5. Okay, I don't know, yeah, like you start creating action and tactics and problems when your army is still not harmonious, the pieces are not out, your rook is undefended and exposed in that diagonal, your king is 2 moves away from castling, so when tactics start to happen and you want to castle, you have to spend 2 moves to castle, but you can't because you need to be saving your rook. Yeah, I don't know, it's the simple things. Chess is simple, right? a3, bishop e4, bishop g2. I don't know what's happening at this point. Knight bd7, castle, bishop e7, and knight c3. Okay, so that comes with a threat. So black needs to do something. Knight takes c3 seems normal. Was played. Queen takes. Bishop f6. What are these moves? I don't know. I don't know. It's new theory. It's new theory. Okay. Bishop f6, interesting move. Putting some pressure there. Pinning the pawn d4. It looks interesting, yeah. And queen e3, getting out of the pin, attacking this bishop. Okay. Bishop takes f3. Bishop takes f3. Interesting. Yeah, I wonder whether there was a alternative here. Maybe just bishop d5 or bishop to b7. I think on d5 it's defended and has no problem in the short term. My point is, if I can, I want to trade it for the bishop on g2, if I can, because I'm trying to justify the bishop e4 move previously. But okay, bishop takes f3 happened. Now you have to be careful about this rook. Wow, bishop takes d4. Okay, winning the tempo. Queen f4. Rook moves. I like black. Rook there. So yeah, at this point, black would love to castle, but I think black is concerned about this line, so he played queen c7, which makes sense. Queen takes, rook takes. How did this game go wrong? It looks very pleasant for black. Rook b1, trying to probably move this pawn. And king e7, rar. I mean, was that necessary? Well, I guess it's playable, yeah. So he wants to bring the other rook. Bishop f4, as expected. 95. Wow, that's a very weird move to me. Okay, so I guess this is where things started going wrong. Yeah, I understand why he played 95. I can understand it. So he saw a tactical problem, so he played the other move, which also has a tactical problem. I guess the one he didn't consider is e5. I guess he was only considering 95 for bishop e5. It's already funny that the rook stayed there for quite a while. There were so many chances to avoid bishop f4 being a problem, and now that bishop f4 is a problem, black didn't find the only solution. I guess the problem with e5, of course, is we're trapping our own bishop. So after white moves this bishop, we need to be careful about our bishop, of course, but I don't know, we have c4 next, so let's say this bishop moves, check, we have f6, and bishop moves anywhere else, we have c4, and the bishop is fine. But I guess he didn't like this, to trap his own bishop. I'm not angry yet. And okay, so bishop e5 has a tactical problem, okay? this is, I think, very, very easy to see, the tactical problem of removing the defender, and white gets 2 pieces for a rook, and even a good more than that, right? Because it's not just 2 pieces for a rook, it's the bishop pair, and, you know, very good position. So he might have seen that, and he might have not liked e5. He went for knight e5, which has the same problem, just in a different fashion, removing the defender. Rook takes d4, and that was played in the game. Rook takes d4. So now if we take here, white takes there. So it's, yeah, the same. Now here black tried knight takes f3 check, but it comes with a problem that our rook is hanging, so we don't have time to take on d4, although it's probably our best option, and he did it. And now it's f6 is a puzzling move, but I guess bishop e5 was a threat. I mean, maybe it's objectively good, but also, you know, this kind of thing is the one that could give you hopes to trap the bishop. Maybe he saw this, maybe he saw the bishop would have no problem, and that's why he went for f6. Never play f6, although here is probably a good move. Okay, so we have this position, this endgame, and of course white is completely winning. So how did the draw happen? It was really funny. Push, king there, push, defend, attack, there, here it comes, rook e7, defend. So black is managing to save all the 7 pawns to try and make white's life more difficult. And here I'm just gonna show it. I don't think if this sequence deserves any comments at all. Here what was played was this: rook b7, king c6, rook e7, king d6, rook b7, king c6, rook e7, draw. And it's funny because it's not forced at all. It's not like the rook is short on squares, or the rook has to defend his pawn, their own pawns. No, the rook is trying to attack pawns. The rook could have gone anywhere else. So very interesting, yeah. Well, that's half a point we stole, and I don't know, was maybe white too overwhelmed by the pawn mass, thinking paid actor. No, I think he said in the chat that he didn't think he was winning. I think he said that in the chat after the game, which is definitely puzzling, yeah. But yeah, I guess, I don't know. I guess black did a good job at you know, limiting white's bishop and restricting it, and I don't know. it's really hard to, I don't know, hard to explain really. You can just go one file away, threatening to win a pawn, and yeah, I don't know, it's hard to believe, but it happened. So yeah, good for us, yay. Okay, let's move one board up and see LionelHuttzz, which was a replacement for this round. He was replacing Cathode, I think, and playing against samkellett. And this game didn't go well for us. Let's see what happened. E4, E5. Was this the Evans Gambit? Yeah. Okay, so we have an Evans Gambit here, which is nice. Of course, in the Italian, if you play normally, like after bishop c5, if white plays just normal stuff, let's say c3, castle, d3 or d4 later. You get the normal Italian, and you will get the same if, you know, with bishop c5, knight f6, or if black starts with knight f6 and then goes bishop c5. But the difference is that knight f6 allows knight g5, and you need to know what to do against the Fegatello, and bishop c5 allows the Evans Gambit, and you need to know what to do in here if you play this as black. Your favorite opening, the Evans Gambit, nice. I kind of like it. Yeah, and so I remember in round 1 we saw bishop b6 by one of my teammates here. Bishop takes b4, best move, c3, and now black played bishop c5, which to my knowledge, is one of the riskiest lines you can play as black here. And okay, doesn't mean it's a bad one, but it's very risky because, you know, you're gonna get hit by d4, which happened, and after takes, of course, white castles, which is my favorite way of playing as well. And the main point of white is speeding up the development a lot, really a lot, and black can't really afford to you know, take on c3 or keep wasting moves. So yeah, here the main move d6 that was played, and now c takes d4. You play c takes d4. Yeah, it's also playable, and I've tried it myself, but you allow this bishop before check, and yeah, there's knight b2, there's king f1. I like castling more, really. I can't say it's better, but you finish, you know, you complete the development faster, and the main reason of castling instead of c takes d4 is that you avoid any bishop b4 business, and rook e1 is coming faster, and after, you know, and black really can't take on c3 because that only gives you more development. So yeah, I just prefer castling, but I can't say that c takes d4 is better or worse. Anyway, after d6, c takes d4 happens, of course, and now, for instance, bishop b4 wouldn't come with a check or with an attack to the rook or anything at all, so actually bishop b4 is a really bad move here, and instead bishop b6 has to be played, and it was played. So the game is following one of the main lines, I would say the main line of the bishop c5 Evans Gambit theory up to this point. Now here, what you're advised to play is, I think the main line goes with knight c3. There are other moves also here. I believe there's h3 because bishop g4 is one of black's main ideas, so h3 is another move. There's bishop b2, there's bishop g5, there's knight b2. But yeah, knight c3 is the main move here, and I think it makes a lot of sense. But white played one of the ideas that are common in the Evans Gambit, just not in this position, which is queen b3, which in this specific position, this particular position, is a mistake. Because the idea of queen b3 is you threaten bishop takes f7, of course, but you always need to be careful not to allow knight a5, and in this particular position knight a5 is allowed, so in this position it's bad. Yeah, and there's certain positions where the only option, like before d4 happens. Let me see. If you start with castling here, which is a minor line, and black is not careful, queen b3 can happen, right? And now knight a5 allows bishop takes f7, and that's crazy stuff. I think I'm trying to recall the theory here. The point is, in this particular position, you're gonna follow up with queen a4 attacking the knight. So if they take your bishop, you take the knight. And you already ruined black's position. You set up a legendary. I used to be legendary. Okay, I used to be legendary. Welcome, Nepor Carlsen. Of course, Carlsen. Is that a tricky question? Okay, so yeah, in some circumstances, when this pawn's still on d2, blocking this bishop, black can just go knight h6. Now, going back to the game. Here, queen b3, bad move. And yeah, now knight h6 is bad due to bishop takes h6. But here, the knight is defended because the bishop went back to b6. The knight is going to be defended on a5. So if knight a5 happened, which didn't in the game, surprisingly, then bishop f7, king f8, you don't have queen a4, and you have to save your queen. What about Firuza? Is he favorite to win candidates? Wow, too soon, too soon. People are talking a lot about Firuza lately, but Shirov is doing great too. Okay. So yeah, in the game queen b3 was played, and knight a5 wasn't played, which is surprising. Yeah, had black played knight a5, you have to go for like queen a4 check, and then yeah, then you have to either play bishop e5 here or allow knight takes c4, and yeah, this at the very least there's c6 here, even bishop takes b5 and then c6. Yeah, this is no bueno. He's number 2, I know. But Shirov, you know, Firuza won like, gained like 30, what was it, 33 points, rating points, 33, something like that. And Shirov won 31. In the last 2 tournaments, Shirov is has been unbeaten, no losses at all, and he played against Firuza, against Kiri, against Grishuk, against Sipenko, against top players. So I think Shirov is in great shape right now. So I just wanted to mention that. He's back to 2700, which is nice to see. But yeah, Firuza, Alireza is of course doing incredibly. Yeah, definitely. But I think it's too soon to talk about the candidates. Many things will happen from here to there, and yeah, we'll see. I mean, I hope he does well. He has the youth, but at the same time the experience. So it'll be nice to see how he, you know, every player is different, and you can tell players like Aronian, for example, back when he was number 2, back when he was, you know, one of the serious candidates, he always did bad in the candidates. He always, you know, the nerves. And yeah, let's see how Alireza does. I think it's a very special tournament. Some players say it's the toughest tournament on earth, the candidates tournament, and yeah, a lot of very high stakes, and only one that really wins, because that tournament is not about money. Not at all. Yeah, Shirov was also number 2 back in the day. Okay, so let's go back to the game analysis. Let's see what happened. After queen b3, black decided to play knight takes d4, which very suspicious. So bishop f7, of course, and now then knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, and here bishop takes g8, which I like, because bishop a1, queen f7 would have been funny. Rook takes, and now white played bishop b2. My choice would have been probably knight c3, because this position, I think white has a lot of advantages. probably white is much better, but the advantages white has are dynamic, right? White has, what does white have here? Better development, and the opponent's king exposed, especially the opponent's king situation. Really hard to make this rook work, or to connect rooks at all for black, and with the pressure on b7, also hard to complete development. So if you play a move like knight c3, you can complete development very easily soon, connect rooks, print the rooks, and this king is in a lot of trouble. We can even imagine things like king h1, f4, e5 happening soon, and all the pieces of white will have a good time attacking, while for black it's hard to complete development. So that's all that white has. What does black have? Well, black has the bishop pair, and black is a pawn up, right? 4, 6, 4, 5. Yeah, black is a pawn up. So I wouldn't go for trades. I would go for attack and development and bring more pieces, kill that king in the center. Yeah, so bishop e2 was a bit weird to me, and it was weird that black didn't take it. Black played queen f6, which, you know, the queen is going to be worse than the bishop on d4, so also a very strange move. Takes, takes, and now knight c3. And yeah, a lot of trouble for black here. Queen e5, f4 rar, which the engine doesn't like it, but I did like it a lot because, you know, e5 next. And now queen e6, and now comes the final blunder, the big blunder, big time blunder. This is where the game was decided. Okay, I'm taking too long to analyze these games, by the way, I'm realizing. So I'm going to speed up a bit. So this is the last important moment I'm going to comment on this game. Huge blunder. Like, I don't know if it's a matter of bad assessment or bad understanding, or just not counting correctly, or not, you know, not keeping track of the situation that we're a pawn down. But yeah, to my eyes, it's pretty clear that black is very interested in a queen trade, and white should be interested in not trading queens here. It's I mean, trading queens is such a bad idea for white here, because, like, you know, if you see again what white has, what black has, what white has is this king of black, and this pressure on b7, this bad situation for black to try and develop pieces. After queen e6, that's also obstructing the bishop. Just keep the queen, you know. But white played queen takes e6, and as an outcome, as a result, white is a pawn down in an endgame where black's king is no longer in trouble, and black's development finally it's finally happening. b7 not under attack anymore. Yeah, it was very surprising to see queen takes e6. And okay, the engine still thinks white has some compensation here, not after f5, but well, the engine still believes in white chances to equalize the game after rook fb1, which is not the most natural move. But yeah, this is already looking very bad for white. And let's quickly see the rest of the game. Okay, he hung a piece here, so yeah, 95 makes no sense. And yeah, the rest of the game we can probably skip it, unless I'm gonna speed up. Yeah, here he resigned. Okay, let's move one board up to see Bob's game. Bob Anderson defending the black pieces against Wernhao. Thankfully, we're gonna start seeing some victories from our side now. So e4, d6, d4, knight f6, and knight c3, knight bd7. We're seeing a perched defense, but with this knight bd7 move, preparing e5. And now white plays f4, very aggressive. And I like black's idea, e5 immediately. There you go. Takes, takes, and now knight f3, which is kind of interesting. There was the chance to go pawn takes and allow this endgame. I mean, black was allowing this kind of endgame, which I think every Pirch player is used to. MHRJ, hey, how can I open up without provoking trades? Like, how can you start the game without provoking trades? That's a tough question, because I find it even more difficult to provoke trades than to not provoke trades. Yeah. All right. So this is an endgame that I think Pirch players are used to play, and that's quite interesting. And here, if you don't want to go there, I suppose the alternative for white is to either push d5 or after this not trade queens and play, I don't know, bishop d3 or something, which maybe bishop d2, I don't know. But he went for knight f3, which is a very interesting move, I guess. But I would take on d4, which didn't happen. Ooh, bishop b4 was played. Ugh. Okay, so what if we take? Like, now we can develop with, with some activity and castle. But okay, in the game, bishop b4 was played, which basically hangs a pawn, right? Because the last move by white was attacking e5. Note that that pawn e5 is attacked twice, it's defended once. So if you really want to develop the bishop, then put it on d6, defend the pawn, right? Bishop b4, I mean, I understand it attacks the pawn e4, but yeah, let's say d takes e5. Are you really gonna take this pawn now? I don't know. This is tactics happening. You have to be very sure of this, and I don't know how black continues. You have to take on c3 with the bishop, looks like, right? Takes. And where do we put this knight? Do we put it on c5? Then there's bishop a3? Or do we play f5? Weakening our king? It's like we're trying to solve already many problems, and we already lost the bishop pair. So yeah, bishop b4, not sure about it. But white played bishop d3, so all good. Takes, knight 5. Move that I like. The engine doesn't like it. The engine, the analysis says knight c5. I like knight e5. Seems very reasonable, attacking the knight also. And now bishop g4. I like how black is trying to be as active as possible, pinning knights, trying to get the bishop pair. And now bishop checks c6. Queen takes d8, rook takes d8, maximum development. See how everything's working in black's favor. Now, after this bishop moves, this bishop needs to be careful because there's some action going on here. And actually, this is a funny moment. The bishop needed to go to e2 because there's the threat of knight takes and bishop takes, or bishop takes and knight takes. So bishop e2 had to be played here. And again, I come back to this thing I usually tell is, if your opponent's making a threat, if your opponent is threatening something, you better defend that. And black is threatening the bishop, and black is threatening a pawn on f3. What can be more natural than bishop e2? And surprise, bishop e2 was the best move. Can you believe it? Anyway, white decided to go for knight takes e5. Which allows already a killer move here. If anyone can see it in the chat, I'll give you a minute while I grab more coffee. Rook d1 check. Nice. J and I, exactly. Rook d1 check. Note that this knight is pinned on c3. And yeah, rook d1 check. Skewer, just winning a full rook. Okay, full. We lost a knight, so it's like an exchange. But on the other hand, this piece is hanging, so it may be a full rook, right? Note that after check, king f2 only move, rook takes. If white decides to take here, we take with check as well. Then we can grab this. We can take here first and then grab this. Okay, we're gonna be material up for sure. Also, we're gonna be pinning this against that. So rook d1 check, killer, completely killing move. Now, black here decided to remove the I don't know if he didn't notice that the knight was pinned, or he actually liked it more trading first. I would have gone rook d1 immediately. This bishop is nice here, and we can always take on c3 if we need it. But okay, he took here first, and then went rook d1, which is also winning, of course. Rook takes h1, and now the game continued. Bishop f1. If you don't mind, is it generally worse starting a trade than letting opponent make the decision to attack first? Should I wait and develop, leaving an even trade open on the map? There is no answer. There's no right or wrong answer to that. If any, I would say it's the wrong question. Chess is tough. It's hard to make general rules, and definitely impossible to make a general rule for that one. Sometimes starting a trade is better because you keep the initiative. That's I would connect starting trades with having the initiative, you know, with being the one deciding what's going to happen. But for example, when you have rooks on the same file fighting for a file, when you're the one initiating the trade, you may be the one losing control over that file. So it depends on the situation, and I only just talked generally about two kinds of situations, but there are more. So yeah, it depends a lot on you need to calculate what's going to happen if you do or if you don't trade, and compare. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. Yeah, there's no real good answer. it's really specific to each position. But yeah, you can imagine that if you know you have a rook on, imagine this position with a rook here and a white rook there, and the rooks are connected to other rooks, then nobody wants to trade, because whoever trades loses control of the file. Early in the game, or same answer for that? Same answer, yeah. It's the more you trade, the simpler the position becomes, or the closer to an endgame you get. But also, if you're the one initiating the trade, in general you have the initiative. So let's say you feel you have an advantage out of the opening, or in the opening, which may happen if you're white, probably. Like you feel you're ahead and black keeps reacting, and at some point you say, okay, if I trade here, then I have that, then I weaken that, and I can keep my initiative. Sometimes you trade to keep that initiative going and keep black being reactive to you, but the concern is that you may be trading too much and maybe just trading into equality. So it's really a hard balance, and you need to calculate what's going to happen. There's no answer that can be said generally for any situation, for every situation. Okay, so in this game already black is a lot of material up, and well, a lot exchange up, and after bishop f1 trying to trap this rook, but there's no real way to trap it forever. Knight takes e4 check. Whoa, yeah, this is resignable already. Let's just, oh yeah, this is so bad. And now bishop b2. Here, if there's a hope for for white would be not to trade rooks, but bishop e2 already allows that, so we can see how the game finished, which I suppose didn't take longer. Knight c2 was funny. The knight is not trapped, but almost. Yeah, now game is certainly over. Talking about trapped knights. Okay, and here white resigned. Put opponent into position of reacting without losing overview of the macro situation. Yeah, that's initiative. When you know, in chess there are some moves that are more forcing than others. Like for example, when you put your opponent in check, they legally need to make a move to get out of checks. So checks are very forcing. The opponent doesn't have a lot of answers to that, right? So a check is a very forcing move. A checkmate threat is a very forcing move also, because if you threaten a checkmate and they don't defend it, you win. So they also have to react a lot to that, to a checkmate threat. And captures, trades, what you were talking about, they're also very forcing, because if you take a piece and they don't take it back, then they're down material. So they're also very forcing. You don't give a lot of options to your opponent. So those are kinds of moves that help you keep the initiative. Moves that, you know, they're very forcing. They force your opponent to do, they have very few options. You're giving your opponent very few options. So you keep control of what's happening on the board. Of course, you need to foresee, you need to calculate what's going to happen next, and if you can keep up with that initiative, or you can get something out of your moves or not. And if it just fades your initiative, then maybe you trade it into equality when you already had a good position. Yeah, chess is tough. You need to, no matter how many strategical concepts you have in your mind, no matter how much knowledge you have, you still need to calculate and try to foresee what's going to happen. Or as I like to say, it's not enough with being a good player, you also need to play well. So you still need to do the job, you still need to calculate. Doesn't matter how much you know about initiative or about weaknesses or positional concepts. You need to calculate and see what's going to happen and see if it's good or bad. Alright, so that was this game. Let's move on to Steve's game. Oh, I really wanted to see this one, because Steve has had can't speak English anymore. Steve had very nice games so far, and I think he scored 2.5 out of 3 already in this league, and also always with endgames. So always long games, and he's showing very good technique in the endgames, even when he's not familiar. This one was an example. This endgame, he was a bit clumsy at some points, but he managed to convert it, and it was really nice. So kudos to Steve for this game. It was a really nice fight. So let's let's see. The game was a Dutch defense. Let's move on fast. Again, I want to speed up a bit my analysis. And yeah, this d6 was a bit weird, because, you know, black usually, when you play with e6, usually go with d5, c6, stonewall defense. And for the Leningrad, yeah, for the Leningrad, you usually play d6 without e6, and then you go for a quick e5 at some point. So after e6, yeah, d6 was a bit slow, but okay, I guess it's playable. And then knight e4, takes. Not pretty standard here. I didn't like c takes d5, because I think there's no reason to fix black's pawn structure here. Yeah, queen b3, 3. Like, you could have gone f3 instead of c takes d5. Bishop g4, queen takes d5. Okay, we're getting into that endgame. Yeah, there are some mistakes here, but again, I don't want to stop too much. And here, bishop f4. So black has a problem here. Black is pawn down, right now. And this is something that I see also in lower boards. They make this mistake a lot. When you're in an endgame and you're like a pawn down, like, you know, in a situation where you're in disadvantage, as a general rule, again, general rules don't always apply, but as a general rule, you should be looking for pawn trades. Or in general, pawn trades are great for you, right? So, because if you get to rook, bishop, and pawn against rook and bishop, it should be an easy draw. Now, if you have, like in this situation, rook, bishop, and 6 pawns against rook, bishop, and 5 pawns, then the situation is complicated. And the more pawns your opponent has, the more pawns that can get past, the more pawns that can promote. So, in general, you want to trade pawns in this kind of endgame. The pawns are the pieces that can convert to queens. So, yeah, don't undervalue them. Anyway, in this situation, white is attacking c7, and black was attacking d5 already. So the previous move, yeah, black attacked d5, and in response, white attacked c7. If I was black, because I just said, in general, pawn trades are good for the weak side. If I was black, I would have no problem whatsoever in taking on d5, which also makes a rook active, by the way, and allowing bishop takes c7. I think black is closer to a draw here than what he played in the game. In the game, he saved the c7 pawn, but kept d5 alive also, and played bishop d6, going for a trade of pieces, which I think makes things closer to a win for white instead of closer to a draw. Because again, going back to the point of you should be going for pawn trades. As I said, if the opponent has only one pawn left and there are pieces on the board, it should be an easy draw. Now, if your opponent has 6 pawns and you have 5, and there are no pieces left on the board, you should lose. Okay, so without pieces, a pawn up situation is almost always winning when there are many pawns. When there's only one pawn, it depends on the situation of the kings. But that being said, you should be looking for pawn trades. You shouldn't be looking for piece trades if you're in disadvantage. So looking for piece trades is kind of weird. But okay, at least it's still one rook left. Now rook e1, threatening checkmate. Of course, you also had rook c1 immediately. So rook e1 is kind of the same, just giving a free tempo for black with h6. But in the end, he's going after c7. Thanks for the answers. From time to time, I'm really interested in chess, but never got really strategically good. I always feel like I'm just moving the pieces, defending, and random trades until I am in the disadvantage because I like macro strategy. Yeah, I mean, chess is very complicated. I can't deny that. And even the best players in the world, they make mistakes. So the good thing about mistakes is you keep learning and you keep improving, and in the end you play humans, so they also make mistakes. So yeah, I don't know, it's of course the more you play, the more you'll start being on the other side, on the side who starts having the advantage. But for me, for example, many times I just happened to do good moves by accident, and only later, like much later, I understood the reasons why. So yeah, that feeling of I'm making random moves or I'm making random trades and suddenly I have the disadvantage and I don't know why. I also have the opposed feeling, and I think that's also normal, of I'm making random trades and now I have the advantage and I don't know why. But it is looking at those later, analyzing and playing more and trying to prove different ideas when eventually you start learning gaining some understanding on what's really happening. Yeah. All right, so rook e7 hitting there, and now trade's happening. Rook to the 7th rank, which is good positionally speaking, but from a material point of view, white is 2 pawns up. Now I'm gonna fast forward here. It's just 1 pawn up now. I'm gonna fast forward to the position where a very interesting endgame happened. White is winning. 2 pawns should just promote. This is an easy win, or so I thought. And then something really terrible happened. By the way, this was very nice move, king b5, only winning move right now. If you go look at this move, this rook can't move because it needs to defend that. And if you play the only rook move that keeps that defended, suddenly there are checks all over the board. This king has no shelter anywhere. That's funny. And also if you play a4, there are checks everywhere. The king has no shelter, so that's funny. So very good job, Steve, here finding king b5, only winning move. And after the check, the king has some shelter and also defends the weak pawn a3, so now this rook is free to move out. Any rook trade, of course, is an easy win, so black doesn't trade. And now there was this interesting moment. Rook c3. a4, good move. The engine says something about that, but yeah, it's a good move. And b5. b5 is such a horrible move that it almost gave the victory away. So I think this is the learning point for Steve. The rest of the endgame was great by him, but this is an interesting point. b5 is a horrible move. a5 is also a horrible move, by the way. What you should do in a situation like this is never give squares for the opponent's king to go up, unless you can push him a game back. So just bring the rook to the long side so you can deliver checks. And at this point, a check would force the king back, and then we can start marching our pawns without allowing the king to block them. So black probably stops that with this move. But then, now we have this rank for checks, so now you can check here, and if the king goes up, you can check him back, and now you can enter with your king. And now, look at this situation with the pawns like this, with the b pawn behind, you're giving shelter to your own king, and there's no shelter for this king, so if the rook leaves, you can start checking. Conversely, that's opposed to what happened in the game. By pushing the b pawn, now it's black's king who has shelter, and we can't check the king easily, while our king has no shelter and can be checked easily. So this is already very difficult to win now. And in fact, rook c4 allows a drawing idea for black that black didn't see. In fact, the only win here, the only winning idea would have been to play rook c6, which is not obvious, with the plan of marching up. And yeah, if black takes here, we're going to promote this pawn, and if black keeps checking, we eventually go there, block with a rook, and win. So that was already complicated win mechanism, very similar to what happened later in the game, but rook c4 gives it away, because after check, yeah, black played rook h6, which is not terrible, but he could have just kept checking. And anyway, at this point, black made a horrible mistake. Here you should just keep checking. This king is ideal there. He played king b6, which makes no sense because the king was ideal there. And now the checks no longer work. Although white is doing some funny things with the king. This move I liked a lot by Steve because it's threatening rook e6, and also rook e6 will happen no matter what. like against the move that happened in the game, king a5, rook e6 would have been very easy win. Yeah, king a5, and he played king e5, but again, rook e6 would have been an easy win because we're playing rook a6 check next, and if check here, king here, and we're playing rook a6 check next. So, okay. So king e5, weird. And now this was a funny moment, rook check. Because here I thought there was a chance to go wrong as white with the move king c6, and I would have played rook e5. I think rook e5 was very simple. So Steve played king d6, which comes to suggest that he saw the problem of king c6, rook takes b5, double exclamation mark, draw. This would have been a draw. Now, after king d6, yeah, king b6 could have been tried, still complicated, but rook h6 was played. I was thinking, was here where I said about a trick and there was a counter trick? Ah, yeah, there was this funny looking move, rook c5. Because king takes is a draw. And there was a funny counter trick, b6. But it doesn't work. Oh, it doesn't work because our king is cut. But the trick is king takes b6, rook check wins the rook. So, because the pawn is helping here. That was funny, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Yeah, this would have been a draw, probably. Looks like a draw to me. Okay, anyway, in the game, after king d6, rook check, rook blocking, king went there, and finally black decided to capture this pawn, which is clearly losing. And after some moves, here, here, and here, finally, black resigned. Great job, Steve. Very well played. Okay, let's move on. I have 30 minutes left, or at least that's what I wanted to see 4 games. I won't have time. Okay, so this was our Smiley's game. And if I recall correctly, his opponent played great, so there was not much of a fight here. E4. Oh, this was the Knight of Sicilian, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna just make a comment on the opening probably. So this is the Najdorf with bishop g5. This is the most complicated line in the Najdorf. Bishop g5, f4. So e6, f4. This is all main theory. And here he played bishop e7, which is correct. I mean, it's one of the main lines. But here I wanted to mention the most popular line, probably the most famous line of the Najdorf, is the poison pawn variation, which goes queen b6, queen d2, queen takes b2. That's a crazy line. Many games in this line with queen b6. Now, the alternatives to queen b6, well, why queen b6 and bishop e7 are moves here is because after white played f4, white is sort of threatening e5, right? White is threatening e5 here. So basically the moves here are bishop e7, queen b6, knight bd7. Knight bd7 controls e5, so stops that. And there's also this h6 move that I like to play, although I don't play the knight a lot, sometimes. But yeah, h6 is interesting because if they take, you're fine after queen takes f6, and bishop h4 allows queen b6, which is a trickier version of the poison pawn variation. Anyway, in the game, bishop e7 was played, which unpins the knight, therefore e5 is not such a problem anymore. After e5 now, we could just simply trade and move the knight out. And queen f3. Queen f3, also a normal move. It's actually the main move here. There are other moves, but queen f3 is the most natural move after f4. Now, here is where our Smiley played a move that I didn't know. So I wanted to point that out. Because I know the theory here goes queen c7. Again, e5 is an annoying idea, and also this queen has some pressure here now. So queen c7 makes a lot of sense. The queen stopped defending c2, so in some lines that's going to be a problem in the future. Queen c7 helps prevent e5, but most importantly, compared to the move that our Smiley played, our long-term plan, especially if white castles long, which is normal here, is after we castle short, we're going to play b5 and attack. Now, our Smiley played queen b6, which really doesn't make a lot of sense if that's the plan. I mean, of all the ideas we just mentioned, queen b6 doesn't connect with them well, because for one thing, we're almost forcing white to castle long now to defend b2, which happened in the game, I think. Yeah, it did. But our queen here is not helping to our plan of attacking with b5, and also it's not preventing e5 by white. So yeah, it doesn't coordinate very well, queen b6, right at that moment. Anyway, let's see how the game continued. Knight c6, good move, prevents e5, but white can trade and go e5, which happened. And yeah, we have to take, and we have to play knight e5. So far so good. Knight takes e5, makes sense. Actually, it doesn't make sense because it allows that. So yeah, after knight e5, threatening bishop takes g5, I suppose white's best move is to just trade, and we need to decide what to take with. But yeah, I guess white has better chances to put pressure on f7 than we have to, and also a long-term advantage because of our c6 pawn. But yeah, I would guess white had to do that. But knight takes e5 allows bishop takes g5. Yay! And our Smiley played it. Knight f4 to save the piece. Castle. h4. Oh yeah, I remember that. So this was a critical moment, and here is where things started going wrong, unfortunately. But it wasn't easy. I understand bishop h6 was not... I don't want to say it wasn't tempting, because it is tempting. To my eyes, this is the best diagonal for the bishop. But I understand that g4 might have been a concern, although it doesn't take too long to calculate, because basically we have to play g6 here. And I think we have a very good position, putting pressure there. We're going to put pressure on b2, maybe then queen a5, attacking e5. I mean, I understand this kind of attack is scary, but yeah, maybe you have to calculate for a bit, but the attack shouldn't be enough. I don't know. Yeah, you have to calculate. I understand bishop h6 is a scary move to play, but on the other hand, in the game after bishop e7 was played, this bishop is not helping the attack at all. It will never target b2, it will never target e5. This queen can't coordinate with that bishop, yeah. And white played very well, by the way, this knight h5 idea and queen g3. White found very, very strong moves here. b3, queen a5, queen g3, and yeah, g6, king b1. I would have gone knight f6 immediately already. The point is, after this, I mean, very dangerous for black. But okay, king b1, defending a2. King h8 doesn't really help against the plan of knight f6. And white keeps building an attack. Black is trying. You know, trying is the first step to failure. Knight e4, good move. Queen d4, very suspicious, but he's trying to keep this idea open. Yeah, c3, good move. And now these pieces are not helping. And also the bishop. If the bishop was on h6, it could defend some squares. From e7 is not helping all the things that are coming here, including knight f6. Yeah, yeah, knight g5, great move. And this situation, bishop takes g6 is sort of a threat. Oh, rook h7 is a big threat. And yeah, queen c7. Yeah, and he saw it, and game over. Good, good game, Andy, and good game, R. Smiley. But yeah, Andy outplayed him. Okay, let's see Pulsar's game. As white, Pulsar plays too fast every round. And in this game, we got a Benoni. And yeah, I remember now what happened. Knight b6, very interesting idea, putting pressure on c4. And yeah, we don't want to play b3 because of this diagonal. So we probably have to play queen d3. Queen e2 is a bit strange because we can envision that the e file, I mean, in the Benoni, black plays e6, rook e8 always, right? So I guess queen d3 made a bit more sense. But that was not the big mistake. After e6 castling and it takes, here comes the mistake. I think all the main lines in the Benoni go with c takes d5. Maybe there's an exception, but yeah, taking with the e-pawn, especially after knight b6 happened and we have our queen on e2 and a bishop can come to f5. Yeah, here c takes was the move. After e takes, I think the game is over because now we can't hold c4. Then d5 is going to have problems, b2 is going to have problems, our queen has problems. Yeah, knight g4. Yeah. I mean, with bishop e3, he Pulsar achieved, you know, to hold that for a while, but yeah, defending everything with, you know, pieces so randomly placed, and it's so ugly. And black has all the time. Black has great coordination against all these problems that white has. e4, allowing queen d4, allowing bishop g4. Yeah. Okay, and black played very, very decently here to convert. Yeah, very nice position for black. Dark square domination. King f4. Not precise according to the engine. g5 is coming. Takes, allows g5 anyway. It happened. Yeah. Okay, I'm going fast over this game because mainly the mistake was e takes d5. And you can tell Pulsar's clock, still 49 minutes at this stage of the game. This is a 45 plus 45 game. Probably thinking a bit more wouldn't hurt. Yeah. Always repeat. Oh yeah, I remember here there was one option. Yeah, at this point I would have tried, position is lost, okay? Black is winning. But bishop takes and rook h5 or rook g7, the point is, it's going to be 2 pawns versus 2 pawns. Both connected, both passed. The thing is, black has the dynamic advantage of having a better king and arguably a better rook, and maybe even the pawns can be like one move ahead of our pawns, but not more than that. So there would be, I think, a lot of chances. It would still be a lot of work for black. But instead, rook h5, allowing the trick. Yeah, and game is over. Black's king is of course in the square, and for some reason white didn't resign yet. Yeah, okay. Here. Okay, let's see board number 2, HampshireHawk. He played a very smooth game, if I remember correctly, against Legion Owl. And d4, knight f6, knight f3, g6. What looks like a, I was going to say a Grunfeld, but white is playing like a Catalan, I would say. Or is this a neo Grunfeld, I think. Anyway, b3, takes, and c5 bar. Let's see if we get to the interesting point. Queen b6, queen b3, knight b d7, all pretty standard. Oh, I remember now the critical point. It will be interesting to see. Yeah, so here's where the action starts happening. Knight g4 hitting f2, okay, so slight threat there. e3 stopping that, okay, and now knight c5 hits the queen needs to move, and it moves to a3, keeping an eye on this knight, right? And now HampshireHawk thinks for, I don't know, well, we'll see now, maybe 10 minutes, I don't know, and he plays rook d8, so from 22 minutes down to 10. So he thinks for 12 minutes and plays rook d8. Now, if my opponent thinks for 12 minutes and plays a move that seems to hang a piece, I would think there's a trick, right? I would think there's no way he hangs a piece after thinking 12 minutes. I mean, not a 2100 player, right? So rook takes d8 check, queen takes d8 forced, queen takes c5. There must be a problem with that, right? So what can the problem be? We don't need to calculate a lot, really, I think. Rook takes d8, queen takes d8, queen takes c5. There's queen d1 check. That's the only check, also. Bishop f1 only move. And now f2 is weak and b2 is weak. There's queen c2 there. So I find it puzzling that, you know, white here took the rook. I mean, taking the rook is normal, I would say. But after taking the rook, he spent from 25:42 to 25:57, less than 30 seconds to take this free piece and allowing queen d1 check, queen c2. So I'm sure, you know, because of the time, because of the clocks, I'm sure HampshireHawk calculated all of that before he played rook d8, and that's correct, that's what you should do. But I think white didn't, which is weird because, you know, white is up on time, has all the time in the world. Why would you take a piece spending no time at all? Very suspicious. And now queen d1 check, queen c2. Yeah. And I think at this point white can resign because there's a checkmate threat there that, you know, you can defend, but if you defend that, you don't defend this bishop, and it's not just the bishop, it's the rook also. So at the very least, you're losing a full rook, because, you know, you took a piece, but you're losing a piece and a rook. And even more than that, after e4, HampshireHawk played a very elegant move here. So queen takes bishop, I would play probably that, and I'll be enjoying life at rook up. But here he plays, oh, actually he played that, sorry. I thought it was here when he played bishop f8, but it was after queen takes, knight 1 to c3. Yeah, here he can just take the free rook, but here he played bishop f8, very elegant move. The point is, it's attacking the queen, bishop is attacking the queen. So yeah, that's easy to see. The other thing is this queen is defending f2, because otherwise queen takes f2, queen takes h2 is checkmate. So we're attacking a queen, the queen is defending a checkmate, the queen has no other squares to defend the checkmate. Oops, we're actually winning a queen. Yeah, so black is winning a queen here. Very nice move by HampshireHawk, who saw that after rook b1, so white manages to save the rook, but then queen c2, and queen c2 or queen d2 just keep the threat on f2, and white is losing the queen or hanging a checkmate, so white resigned here. Very nice finish. And now finally let's see the game on board 1. I'm gonna try to spend 10 minutes to make it to 2 hours. This was my game. So yeah, it was actually a very nice game. I've been meaning to try the London system, the Jobaba London system, for a while in a longer time control. I've been playing it lately quite a lot in Blitz and Bullet, and I still need to study a bit. But finally I had the occasion to play it. So yeah, I started with d4, my opponent went knight f6. As I already knew, he was very consistent with knight f6, and here I went for bishop f4. Usually I play knight c3 first, because that's like the recommended order, and also we could transpose to a pirch or some other openings depending on what black does. But the thing with is that I saw that my opponent is very consistent answering bishop f4 with d5, and I kind of wanted that. I wasn't sure what he would play against knight c3, so I went bishop f4 first and then went knight c3. Because I really like these lines, and so I wanted to force this d5 line. I'm not forcing it, but I mean, according to his repertoire, it looks very likely that we would go here. And here he played a6, which is nice. The lines with a6 are especially targeted against the knight b5 idea in the Jobaba London, where, let's say, if you play, for example, let's show a very bad line, a6, e3, c5, already knight b5, black is in a world of trouble here. You have to play knight a6 only move, and then c3, a4, and only this knight and this bishop, the bishop, you're gonna keep it on that diagonal forever because it's well placed there, so only with the knight, so to speak, you're freezing all these pieces around. This rook can't even move. Yeah, so those knight b5 ideas are really annoying in the Jobaba London. That's why a6 makes a lot of sense. And then you can try e6, c5. That's one of the normal plans. But in this game, after e3, he played with bishop f5, which is also something I like to see because I really like very much these lines with f3, g4. Now, the engine is not impressed with these lines, but I really think they're great. They offer great chances for white. And here I would expect e6. So e6 would have been the normal, but my opponent, after the game, told me he has played these lines also with both colors, so he knows about this f3, g4 idea, and he played a very interesting move h6 here, because the normal lines would go e6, g4, bishop g6, h4, then you have to play h6 or h5, one of the two, for example, something like this, and here there's knight e7, knight g8, but this is, let's say, main territory, main lines, and this is a very good situation to attack bishop d3, etc. And so he delayed e6, which made me think here, because maybe the bishop can go back on that diagonal if I play g4. So I was thinking here, should I delay g4 or not? But in the end I didn't see a good reason to delay it, so I played it. Bishop g6 happened, and now h4, and after e6 we're back in main territory, where, you know, after h6 you don't rush h5 because you want to keep g5 options open. so I went for bishop d3, which is like the main theory I know. Bishop takes d3. And here I take with the pawn. There's this idea that if this pawn didn't move yet, you take with the pawn, because if the pawn has moved to c6, then you take with the queen. Both moves are okay. Just the thing is, if the pawn can go in one go to c5, it's more likely to go to c5. So here I take with the pawn with the idea to meet c5 with takes and d4 and keep that dark square domination. While if black already spent a move on c6, you take with the queen, then it would be very costly to spend another tempo. But of course, everything's playable really at this point. So bishop d6 happened, very good move. Knight g2 defending the bishop. Knight c6, which I think is the first move that kicks me out of my book. I'm more used to black trying to play c5. And here, well, the engine liked queen b3, which, okay, maybe in the future, but king f2 looked very normal. It's also protecting g3, so I can go bishop g3, knight f4. Or sometimes in these lines you go king g2 to avoid checks, so you go king g2 and then knight g3, then g5 with the knight covering h5. So many ideas that can happen in the future, but the king is normally going here. Queen d7, rook c1, and now we're getting to the very interesting moment after bishop takes, knight takes, long castle. Finally, he has been delaying castling, so I wasn't sure whether I should play a3 b4 or break on g5, but now he finally castles, so now we both have a plan. And now knight f4 looked like the most natural move, because I'm not only going for c5, but I have a lot of tricks on b6. Like if this knight moves now, he hangs the queen, for example, knight b6 check. And also I have ideas like queen b3. Like if he goes b6 here, which didn't happen, I was thinking queen b3. B6 made some sense to stop knight c5, and I was thinking queen b3, threatening knight takes b6, then queen takes b6, then rook hc1, etc. So it looked like a very promising attack. So knight f4 made a lot of sense, and I'm threatening knight c5, which should be annoying because then I also have ideas of queen b3. And here he played queen d6, and now I made the luckiest blunder ever. This was very lucky, very, very lucky, because I think I played one of the best moves according to the engine by mistake, because I missed one thing, which is what my opponent played. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, I just lost a pawn. So I didn't realize what the threat of queen d6 was. In my view, the only idea of queen b6 was to avoid those knight b6 tricks. And maybe to contest queen b3 with queen b4, or I thought queen d6 made sense for a number of reasons, also to prepare e5, but I didn't see a threat. I didn't see what my opponent was threatening. I didn't see that the queen is threatening the knight. I mean, I didn't consider it. Of course, the queen can't take the knight, but the point is that by attacking the knight, what black is threatening is actually knight takes d4. I completely missed this threat. And here I played normally because, one of my ideas was knight c5. He didn't stop it, and also I thought I didn't want to play queen b3 and be met by queen b4, so I thought knight c5 made a lot of sense. And then my opponent answered with knight takes d4, and yeah, that was a tough moment because I thought my position was collapsing, and I was lucky it wasn't, because I completely missed this beforehand. Now, lucky me, when it happened, my first thought is I'm a pawn down. My second thought was I have to play the sad knight g2 move, although the engine likes queen a4 better for some reason, but it's just crazy. because I don't know, the queen is defending a6, so I'm not sure what the point of... because if knight c6, knight takes a6. Oh, queen a4. Yeah, that wasn't on my radar. Anyway, knight g2 seemed to work really nicely. I thought it was the only move. I didn't see any other move. Just, you know, get the knight out. And finally, I'm winning the tempo back, and that's the tempo I needed for the attack. Because a move ago, when I play knight c5, if I'm given a free tempo, I would go queen b3, and I think I have a great attack. The problem is it's black's turn. But now, after knight takes d4, knight g2, he has to go back because his knight is under attack, and after he goes back, I can go queen b3, which I did. And suddenly I have a good attack. I'm pawn down, but I have a good attack. So it's funny how I hang a pawn, and by taking it, my opponent gave me the tempo I needed for the attack. That was very lucky miss. And now suddenly it's all working out very well for me. So queen takes b7 mate is a huge threat. And now black needs to play either b6 or knight a5. I thought knight a5 was the best move, but I was wrong. Stockfish says b6 is the best move, which hangs a6. And he played b6, my opponent. But I'm still not sure. I thought knight a5 was I still believe knight a5 was a better practical chance, because I feel like I'm forced to go queen b4, and after b6 there are a lot of chances that these queens get traded, which would have been a much simpler life for my opponent. I thought king b7 I would go either knight c5 check or queen takes d6 and knight b4, because I was briefly considering this kind of sacrifice to have my rook on the 7th rank, but it feels like too much. It feels like too much because I have a lot of weaknesses that he's gonna use very soon, even if I'm collecting some pawns here. Yeah. And yeah, knight e5 was then the alternative, but he played b6, which according to the engine is the best move. But after knight takes a6, apparently he has to play, what was it, d4? I think it was d4 or king b7. And he played king d7, which is horrible. Yeah. So again, against king b7, I thought I could just go out with knight c5. So I thought my knight was never in trouble. And after king d7, which is clearly preparing rook a8, I think. That's the only thing I can think of. Now I stopped being concerned about g5, but I didn't say anything about it, but I was concerned about g5. But now I'm no longer concerned. His king is in the center, he's not going to open the board anywhere now. And yeah, here queen b5 was already killing, but I played the very positional d4, which, yeah, the engine doesn't like, but I think it's perfect because it stops his counterplay. He can't play e5 because of my pressure on c7, and after rook a8, queen b5, defending my knight and pinning his knight, rook a7, trying to bring the rook, rook c3, trying to bring the rook, and it's time to either resign or do what he did, rook takes a6. But of course, if you play rook a7 to play rook takes a6, you lost a tempo, but he realized that rook a8 would have been completely and utterly losing here. This is a disaster for black. So yeah, after rook c3, he sacrificed the exchange. And yeah, let's see how the game finished. There was just one extra funny moment. b3, making this knight silly. h5. The reason is here, I know I'm in good shape, but I don't have a plan. So I think my worst piece is the knight. I think my rooks and queen are great, and I want the knight on e5, basically. I want it on e5 or some square like that. I basically want it on d3. So I want to play knight f4, knight d3, knight e5. But the problem is if I play knight f4 now, he has g5, hitting my knight. And I don't have time to play, if I play knight d3, there's queen h2, which is a problem. So what I really want to do is to play knight f4, king g2, then knight d3. But again, if I play knight f4 first, he has g5, so I don't have time for king g2. Therefore, I came up with h5, which the engine doesn't dislike a lot, but it's not the best option. Yeah, so here h5, g5 I can always take, and I'm getting ready for knight f4, king g2. But here f5 happened, which is crazy. So takes, here, here, takes, knight f4 anyway, and now knight c5. And queen d4, and yeah, so the point of queen d4 is if queen takes f5, I had before, although first I thought queen takes g7. Queen takes g7 looks good, but then I saw b4. So the alternative, well, if he takes, this is horrible, of course. I mean, I'm winning everywhere, but... And if knight e7, my first idea was check and takes, but that allows queen h2. And then I thought, okay, I trade queens, then check and take. Or I trade queens and I take the free pawn on d5. And then I thought, what if I take the free pawn on d5 first? And I can take it with the knight, but that allows queen h2. But I can take it with the queen. And that was funny, because after the game he told me, queen takes d5, what a crazy move. I don't think it was that crazy, but... So I played queen takes d5 here, and the main idea is, of course, a queen trade is completely beneficial for me if he wants to trade, and then the pawn is pinned, obviously. So I'm completely winning there. And if he takes my queen with the pawn, then rook takes check, knight g6 fork, I regain the queen, and I won another exchange, so I'm like 2 exchanges up. So yeah, what can he try? He can try queen takes c3, which I thought about, but here I thought I had queen g8, queen takes c8 at the very least. And after the game we both agreed that it was probably the simplest option if you compare it to the game. Because yeah, here it's very easy to target g7 next. In the game, the way I did it, his king was there already. So yeah, probably queen g8 was the simplest, but here I played knight e6 because I wanted to give him a chance to go wrong, to go even more wrong. Of course I know I'm winning, but I want to give him a chance to lose the queen for free with knight e6 check. He went king e7, which is correct, but if king e8 I wanted to go check, check, like check, and take the free queen. That's why I played knight e6 check, because also keeps the option open of just taking on c3, which was another option here, to just take on c3 then go knight e6 check, take the rook. Similar to the game, really. And after knight e6 check, king e7, I had to go for it. Rook takes c3, c takes d5, rook takes, and now king f6. And of course, many moves win here, but I was trying to, well, you know my style, I was trying to to make it as simple as I could. So I didn't like knight d4 because I really love my knight on e6, targeting g7 and preventing king g5. So keeping the knight here, how do I save this pawn? Well, one option was e4 that I considered, but then I found rook d8 very precise. Well, I don't know, the engine, yeah, the engine likes it. Rook d8. The point is, if he takes on f5, I win. With the intermediate move, I win the piece on d7. Knight takes d7 also works for the same reason, because rook takes defends it. So rook d8, nice. And if he moves the knight, then I have rook f8 check. So he went back to e7. And now rook g8, hitting this pawn a lot. And knight e5. Yeah, and at this point I thought, okay, rook takes g7, king f6. It would be nice if his knight wasn't on e5. I could play rook g6 check with some checkmate ideas. But the knight is on e5, so I thought f4 first. But then knight d3 check, knight c1, and of course I should be winning that, but if I lose these pawns, then he has some counterplay. That shouldn't be enough, but why why allowing it, right? So I found, first I thought of knight e2, king e2, but then I found knight f4. That's my kind of move, which is not even in the top 5 moves of Stockfish, but I think it's like very nice. Knight f4, keep everything under control. And yeah, now king f7, rook d8, king f6, and the very nice, very last, the latest small calculation I did here, rook d6 check was tempting me, but then I thought I want to really take d5, not b6. So I better do it in one go, not to give him the free tempo king takes f5. So now if he goes king takes f5, which he did, I have knight e3, and here he resigned because I'm winning. Yet another piece, knight c6. I was planning on meeting with takes, and f4, and yeah, game is over. So all in all, it was a nice game. And I got very lucky with missing this knight takes d4 move. Yeah, I think that was one of the key moments. And the other key moment is when he had to defend. I guess we both miscalculated. I thought he had to go knight a5. I thought after b6 I was winning, and I wasn't, apparently. He had... the engine says black is better after king b7. Funny. Yeah, but after king d7 it's over. So, those were the games of this round. And yeah, I wanted to do the recap in 2 hours, and it took me 2 hours and 12 minutes. So not that bad. Okay, I'll leave it here. I'll see you next time, and have a good one. Bye bye.